One time my niece was sitting next to me. We're on actually Caldwell Boulevard, and I was so high. I'm in the middle of like a conversation with her just like this. And I nod out, and she has to reach over and grab the steering wheel and is like screaming. I come to her like just screaming for me to wake up with my little one in the back seat. And none of it was ever enough for me to be like, dude, what are you doing?
Cool. Let's get this thing started. I could go on talking about this stuff for a while, but I want to hear your story.
I'm like, I can talk about fitness all day long.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think, like I said, I just seen some of your content you put up, and then I was like, man, this is really cool. I think it was something about recovery, and I was like, I love recovery stories. So
yeah. Goodness gracious, next month I will hit 5 years clean off meth and heroin. Oh, wow. I have 2.5 years sober off alcohol. It has been a journey, to say the least.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't even know where to start with that.
We'll start from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Pretty much Idaho. Yeah, my family's originally from Northern California, but the Sacramento area for the most part. But we moved here in 99, so I pretty much grew up around the Nampa Caldwell area. Idaho's been home for years.
What brought you guys here?
My dad is a pastor.
Oh, really?
Yep. So I was raised in the church.
Pastor's kid. The PK.
Yeah, the PK. We live up to our reputations, as people like to tell us.
I've had another guy on here that was a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
And he's now the warden out at the South Boise Women's Prison. But
crazy.
But he's like, yeah.
Did he go through some?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like my parents were so strict on us, and especially now that I'm a parent, right? Looking back, it's like you do the best with what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did the best with what they knew at that time.
Was it a big church? No.
So my dad was, they called home missions. So my parents are apostolic Pentecostal. We believe in the oneness and speaking in tongues, and that's how I was raised. And so we did a lot of traveling. Before I came around, I have 2 older brothers, and they were all over California all the time. And then by the time we had moved to Idaho, we had lived from California, Oregon, Nevada, and then came to Idaho. And so we bounced around a lot.
Was that just doing like mission work or?
Yeah, my dad would go preach where he felt called to go. And then Idaho, he felt called to come to Idaho. And we moved here actually on my 7th birthday from Portland, Oregon. We were like packed up and ready to move. And we got a call, and my grandma had passed away on my 7th birthday. And we were moving to Idaho on my 7th birthday. And so it was like an interesting start to coming here. So my mom and I flew out to Sacramento as my brother and my dad moved here. And my oldest brother was incarcerated at the time. And then he eventually showed up. And I'll kind of touch on that too. My 2 older brothers were a huge influence in my life. And not to speak about them negatively in any way, shape, or form, but one is 13 years older than me and the other is 7 years older than me. And so growing up, a certain type of lifestyle was glorified. The rest of my family was addicts, ran the streets. And so it was like, wow, that's cool.
As in your siblings or?
Yeah, and my cousins and aunts and uncles. And so like the only people that were in church were my parents.
Oh, okay.
The rest of my family was a mess running around the streets of California. And so I'm young, right? And my parents worked a lot. We were definitely like lower middle class growing up. We were pretty broke. And so they were at work all the time. And when they weren't at work, they were doing church stuff. And so my oldest brother was kind of a father figure to me a lot. He had me a lot growing up. And so I was exposed to a lot of things that a little kid, let alone a little girl, shouldn't be around. Right. And so I grew up, I always think about the Tupac song, Shorty Wanna Be a Thug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so, like, I grew up thinking, like, I was so hardcore because my brothers were so hardcore. Well, that got me into a lot of trouble. So by the time I was in my teens, I was partying really, really hard. And, in high school, teenagers party, and that's pretty normal.
At what age did you first, like, dabble?
So I started dabbling, right? So pot is usually, and they say the gateway drug, and I'm like, it kind of is. What was I, 13? Here
in Idaho, then, right?
Yeah, here in Nampa, and it's fun. It was cool, and then by the time I was like,
did your brothers introduce you to that?
No. My oldest brother, when I was in high school, he did almost a 12-year stretch down in California. And so he was in prison. He got arrested when I was about 12 or 13, if I remember correctly. And we went down a couple times to see him, but I didn't see him for like a big portion of my life. But there was a lot of communication there, like writing and phone calls. And again, my oldest brother, I sat on a pedestal. Like, I wrote, in elementary school when they're like, write a story about your hero. My brother was always my hero. And I seen like the drugs and the crime. I didn't see it clearly, right? Like, that was just what my brother did, and it protected us and it provided for us, is kind of like how I seen it as a kid. It was a means to necessity. I didn't see it for like how horrendous it was and what it was doing to our life and the example it was actually setting.
Was he actually providing, like selling and giving you guys money or something, or what?
Yeah, he would take care of me. So like my parents were like really broke, and so I remember many, many times where my brother would take me and like go buy me the stuff that like I wanted, right? He would show up in cool cars that weren't his.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a flashy lifestyle, right? There's always cash, and he's always running and gunning and going. And there was something about, and mind you, my brothers are big boys. They're like 6'3", over 200 pounds, big old boys. Like, I don't know what happened to me. I got like the random short jeans. I say I get the leftovers because I was the youngest. But
you get the runt of the litter.
Yeah, the runt of the litter. And I mean, thank God I'm not a 6'3" female. That would kind of be shitty. But, they were very respected, right? And so I think that was another thing as to why I looked up to it so much, is like they walked around and people didn't mess with them. They would do what they said. And I remember very clearly one time in Oregon when we lived near Portland, he would pick me up from kindergarten all the time. And there were these apartments that he kind of ran, and I would go hang out at these apartments with him. And it was the type of thing where like you'd walk by somebody and they would always move out of the way, right? Or like, even if my brother wasn't with me, the people in that community knew who he was. And I mean, I was in kindergarten, so you remember bits and pieces, but I very clearly remembered people don't mess with me, right? So it kind of made me cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband likes to say, my little cute 5'3" wife thinks that she's a 6-foot grown man. So it was interesting. You are raised around this, and it's just kind of normal. And like, it's illegal. All of it's wrong. It's not like doing any good, but you kind of don't see it for that. And so he went away.
Was it for drugs?
Lots of stuff. Yeah, you got in a high-speed chase down in California and got arrested. All kinds of guns, drugs, everything you can think of. And so they slapped him pretty hard. And that was an interesting journey, like having someone you love in the system, right? And, oh my gosh, the horror stories that I would hear as like a young girl about the stuff that he was dealing with in there. And the prisons down in California are not the prisons here in Idaho.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's scary.
Like level 3, level 4.
Yeah, maximum security. He was started out in San Luis Obispo Men's Colony, and he was there for years. And then they moved him down south. He had like less than a year left, and they moved him down south, and the population was 90% Hispanic, and my brother's a big old white boy. And so you have experience with that. That's not bueno. Like, that doesn't go over very well. And so a lot of prayer. I think a lot of prayer got my brother through that. I can't imagine what he's been through. But as like his little sister, and hearing these things, I would just bawl. I would bawl all the time and cry because my brother wasn't home, and like that was my hero. And I never understood, like, yeah, he did bad things, but in my head, like, he wasn't a bad person.
Right.
And that was tough. And
did you ever get to go visit him?
A couple times. Yeah, when I was in like middle school, we'd go down there, but it was a long trip. And then one time we went down, I think it was the first time we went down, my mom had forgot my birth certificate.
Oh, no.
And so my mom got to go in, and my grandpa had to just like take me to go do something. And so I didn't get to see him. Yeah, lots of phone calls, lots of letters. I still have like a box with all of them. And then when we did go in there, that was an interesting experience too, because I was like, I don't know, 13 years old going into this maximum security men's prison to visit my brother. And you walk into that visiting room, and it was similar to the experience I had when I was younger around the apartments, right? Is like people kind of like move around him. I remember walking up to the vending machines and like other inmates and their family getting out of the way so that I could get what I wanted.
Wow.
He was, yeah. And then my oldest brother also has a different biological father. Was raised by my dad since he was 2, but his biological dad was well known in the prison systems down in California and that side of his biological family. He has 2 brothers and a sister who also were well known around there. And so it was interesting, right? And when you're young, that's perceived differently than when you're an adult. You're an adult and you realize, man, that's just like crime, right? Like that's not good. You don't want to be looked at like that. But when you're younger and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, they respect my brother. Like they get out of my way. Oh, people do things for him. Right.
Got some status.
Yeah. You think it's cool. And you're like, I want to be like that, And so I have another brother who was here in Idaho the whole time. And him and I have always had a really hard time getting on the same page. And we were never like super close. But when I was in middle school, he married my first sister-in-law. And her and I got really, really close. And so as I slowly started like breaking into like trying drugs and like messing around with weed and pills and alcohol, she was around a lot. And love her. So glad she's also in recovery. Super proud of her. My brother was in a band at the time. And so his house was party house. And so through high school, because they got married when I was like 14 or so. And so then I hit high school and his house was party central. I was like, this is fun. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And around that time, after the weed and like, the fun pills,
like ecstasy?
Yeah, we would do a lot of ecstasy, a lot of mushrooms, like the fun party stuff.
Hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
Was Molly a thing then?
Molly was a thing then. Yeah, we were selling Molly in high school. That's cool. Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly, we were selling Molly in high school. So that was the other thing too, is I had connections because of who my older siblings were.
Yeah. Did your parents have any idea this whole time?
Yeah.
Because they're pastors
Isn't
and they're
that
all that
crazy?
stuff, and they're
Yeah. I love my parents to death. I also feel like they definitely they don't condone it, that's for sure, but they definitely enabled us more. They tried to put their foot down. They weren't okay with everything going on, but they had this theory that they would rather us be home and come home every night and know that we're safe and we're fed and we're taken care of, than just be out on the streets. So it was very, very rare in my life where my parents would tell me I couldn't come home, even with all my bullshit. Same with my brothers. Man, we'd bring home strays. Yeah. Through, like, when I was younger, I don't know how many friends, my brothers' would bring home who just gacked out of their minds, right? Or, like, I would come home with people, and looking back, it's like, oh, my God, dude, if my kids brought stuff like that home, I'd be like, this is not flying. But also with my parents' faith, I will also contribute to the fact that if it wasn't without my parents' power of prayer over my life and my brother's life, we wouldn't be where we are today. Absolutely. There's just no way. There's no realistic way we would have made it out of what we made it out of. And so, yeah, party central at my brother's house. I think he liked to kind of just pretend like I wasn't there. He hated seeing me around. Like, he wasn't condoning it. He didn't like it. And also being the youngest in my family and growing up with 2 older brothers, I was always used to hanging out with people who were much older than me. Mm-hmm. And I also learned how to, like, grow up really quickly because I wasn't really around kids a lot. I was always around my older brothers. And so I thought I was a grown-up way before I should have thought I was a grown-up. And I would just party with my brother and all of his friends who were, like, grown-ass adults going to the bar and shit, right? And I'm in, like, high school. And I ran around high school. I was a mess. Even middle school, I was getting in fights. You know, I went to South Middle School, and now I have a daughter going there next year. I'm like, Lord, help me. It's nerve-wracking thinking of, like, what I did at that age. Thank God she's not even close.
Hopefully there's not teachers there anymore that are same teachers.
I didn't see any at open house the other night, but I will tell you, my middle school security guard is actually a member at our CrossFit gym. And I have gone and had a conversation with her because she also got my brother arrested at Skyview High School back in the day. So I have had a conversation with her, and she's an amazing lady. But, you know, it's funny how it comes full circle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, fighting. I thought fights were cool. I thought it was, you know, you walk around with a God complex because you have these, like, 2 older brothers who just, everybody, like, bends to their whim. And they don't exactly look like boys you want to tell no.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of got that complex too because nobody told me no because then they have to answer to my brothers.
Did you hang around other girls too, or was it just around a whole bunch of other adults? Like, did you guys have, like, your own little clique of, like, people that were fighting, or what?
I had one friend, and her and I, she moved here from Florida in middle school. I think it was like 7th grade, 8th grade. And we kind of just, like, linked. And it was just, like, the 2 of us all the way through high school. We even stayed friends into our adult years. And she and I got into some mischief, man. The shit we would run around Nampa doing. And, oh my gosh, middle school, I remember it was like the summer of 8th grade because we were headed to high school the next year. And we were out running around South Nampa with a bag full of airsoft guns and eggs. And a cop picked our asses up. And everybody always thought we were, like, actual sisters. We looked close enough alike that we could play it off. And so the cop takes us to her house because we knew we'd get away with it with her dad. We weren't going to my house. And so the cop knocks on the door. Dad comes, opens the door in his underwear and is like, "What the fuck, girls? It's like 4:00 in the morning." And our excuse is, we were out jogging. It's like, the fuck are you doing jogging at 4:00? We were not jogging. Come to find out, the cop who picked us up and took us back home was our resource officer at the high school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I was like, well, that was a good impression to make. We also had a lot of resistance with us being two little white girls and running around Nampa thinking we're really hard. And there is a huge Hispanic presence in Nampa.
Bunch of cholas.
Oh my gosh, dude. They hated us. And so we got in fights all the time. So we got suspended a couple of times in middle school, and I would have the school call my brother. Well, my brother didn't want to deal with it. He was like, "I'm not getting you out of this shit." And so my sister-in-law would come pick me up from the school and cover for my ass. So my parents never knew that I was getting in fights and getting suspended. And they were never home, right? They worked all the time. And so, like, I could skip school like it was nothing. I could show up home in the middle of the day. Nobody would know, right? Or, like, not go to school because they would leave before I was supposed to go to school. Oh my gosh, so stupid.
Did you ever have to go to Alpha One?
No, I got lucky. I never went there. I do know what you're talking about, though. I remember that. Yeah. No, I somehow have always had, until I got incarcerated, I've always had this, like, I say my higher power, God, has been looking out for me, and I've had an angel on my back, man. And I got away with a lot of shit.
You got a lot of lives.
I got a lot of lives. Yeah. More than a cat. So, because those should have been expired a long time ago. Game over. And we thought we were just tough shit, man. And
Did you win a lot of the fights you got in?
No. That was the worst thing. No. Dude, I thought I was so hard. And, I mean, like, I got in some good scraps. There was one time twice I got my ass jumped in high school. I think it was like our freshman year. I got jumped by the vending machines by 6 Mexican girls. There's like these back stairs, and my best friend at the time, the girl I ran around with forever, we're walking to class, and these group of girls come down the stairs, and they walk right past her and start shoving me into the vending machine. And I'm about to and all I can think is, oh, fuck, dude. Like, I can't take 6 girls. Yeah. Dude, and I was smaller than this when I was in high school. So I was like maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. Like, I'm tiny. I've got a God complex on my head. And my saving grace, Jessica my best friend turns around. And she starts screaming and yelling, starts pulling these girls. I'm shoving them, trying to get off the vending machines. And the security guard happens to, like, notice what's going on because it's on, like, the back main hall and, like, blows her whistle. I got my ass saved that time. And then we got in another group fight one time. And also, her dad drove us to a fight one time in middle school. He said, you guys got it. He was that type of dad. He was great. He's like, you guys got to learn how to, like, handle, if you're going to run your mouth, you got to learn how to handle your shit. So he, like, drove us to go get in a fight. My sister-in-law was there for that one. There was another one in our freshman year that we went and got into at the park behind the Albertsons in that neighborhood. Man, that was, like, a notorious park for fighting.
Of Greenhurst?
Right on the Greenbelt, yeah. Yeah, everybody from, like, South and Skyview would get in fights back there. And so it was, like, midnight, and my sister comes because these kids were threatened to bring knives. And there was 2 dudes coming to the fight. Not just girls, there were dudes coming. So I called my sister, and she, like, took us down there. And that was an embarrassing one, man. Oh, my gosh. So crazy. I'm like, what were we doing? Why are we running around, like, trying to fight people? What was I trying to prove? You know what I mean? Looking back.
Well, your brothers had that reputation. You wanted to probably just carry it on, too.
Yeah. I wanted people to, like, respect me, I guess, how they did them.
Well, at least win or lose, at least people knew that you were going to scrap.
Yeah. Dude, we didn't care. Yeah. I was like, you can beat my ass. That's cool. I'll probably lose most of the time. I'm like half the size of most of y'all, but I still would run my mouth, man. I didn't care. I would run my mouth so much and just like walk around cocky and arrogant as shit. And nobody scared me. Dudes didn't scare me. That was the worst one. And I, until recently, finally got rid of that complex that I could walk around and fight men. Because I was just like, dude, swing on me. I don't give a shit. I'm so stupid. I'm like in high school, like trying to fight like teenage boys. And I was like, I'll swing on you. I don't care. And that's not attractive. Like, none of them wanted to date me, that's for sure. I was like, dude, that girl will swing on my ass. It's like, she's toxic as hell. So that was interesting. On top of it, I was high all the time. So, like, I didn't really have, I was like numbing out all my pain receptors, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally.
Were you still just on party drugs then? Like weed and pills?
Yeah. Drinking all the time, weed and pills. And then around that time, around like 15, 16 is when the painkillers started. And so, started out with like some Norcos here and there, some Vicodin, some Percocets, and they were fun because they kind of just like made you numb a little bit. And then the oxys started, and it became a thing around school. And it became a thing around my brother's group of friends. And so there was like the oxy epidemic. And they were called Opanas. And they were even more stronger than oxy. And I fell in love. It's like synthetic heroin. And that was my first love, was opiates.
How were you affording all this?
Selling most of the time. I would sell. You do the hustle, right? So like you get stuff at a cheaper price, you turn around, you jack it up on everybody else so that you can pretty much get high for free.
Yeah.
I always worked. That was the one thing. Like, I've had jobs since I was a teenager. My work ethic is like no other. I'll bust my ass just to get high.
So you were actually employed though? Not just like you were hustling?
All the way from the time I was like 14 or 15, I got my first job. I've been in the service industry like 18 years, and I got my first server job. I lied to them and told them I was 16 so that I could serve. It was a little Mexican restaurant, so they didn't check. Got my first serving job.
You probably threatened to fight them if they didn't hire you.
Yeah, right. Give me a job or beat you up. And that was, I don't think that was beneficial either, because that's fast cash. Right? So you go home with money every day.
Oh, like tips and stuff?
Yeah. So you're walking out with cash on a daily basis, which supplies a really crappy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, as I got older, I had no problem stealing my way through anything. Started out at stores, right? I would just go jack stores like it was nothing. We'd go in with like, remember the Karcher Mall?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go into the Karcher Mall with a Foot Locker bag because there was a Foot Locker there at the time. And then we would fill it with shoe boxes, and we would go into Macy's and fill the shoe boxes full of clothes, and then we would walk out. And then there was like Burlington was there. We'd go do it at the Boise Mall. And we would just walk in with shopping bags, fill the shopping bags full of clothes, and walk out. Or we'd put on the clothes. It was insane. I'm like, what in the world? And I never got caught.
Oh, my gosh.
I never got caught. I never got caught for stealing. And I stole thousands of dollars worth of clothes. Like thousands. We were the crazy dumb people where back in the day we would fill a shopping cart at Walmart and just walk out with it. Like it was nothing. I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes me so nervous. Like, why would you do that? Like, that's so fucked up. And
just because you were high, like you didn't have any.
Yeah, I wanted shit.
Yeah.
Like I felt like.
Then what do? You just went and like sold it to other people, or
no?
What?
Most of the time I stole shit like I wanted.
Oh, okay.
Like it was because I wanted it.
That wasn't like to support your habits, then. That was just because you wanted to.
That was just because I wanted shit. Okay. Yeah, and also, so in my parents' belief and their faith, the church I was raised in, the women don't wear makeup and you don't cut your hair, and we wore long skirts. And so part of my rebelling also, because my parents didn't allow me to like dress a certain way or wear makeup. And so I would steal all of it, right? Because I didn't have the money to buy it. My parents wouldn't buy it for me. And so I would just go steal it all so that I could look like everybody else. So all of my years going through elementary school, middle school, I got bullied a lot because I looked different than everybody else. And kids like lock on to that. When you don't look like them, you don't act like them. And I think that was another reason I walked around with something to prove, was because kids were always so mean to me. And so I didn't want you to be my friend. I didn't want you to like me. I wanted you to like fear me instead. And I would rather someone be scared of me than like me. And that's because something inside of myself was so broken from a young age that I had this complex of people being mean to me just wanted me to it made me want to turn around and just be even worse to them. Like, I didn't know how to have kindness. And my brothers had instilled in me from a young age, the mantra was, you're a savage. Like, you live, breathe, eat savagery. Like, you don't give anybody second choices. Like, they do what you tell them or you make them do it. And so growing up where like kids bullied me for what I wore because I wore skirts every day, or I couldn't play sports, I didn't have an outlet. I held on to so much hatred, like so much anger. And that was really hard, not having any kind of outlet. And so that turned into my outlet, right? Fighting and drugs in like middle school. And so as I got older into high school, it just elevated. And it really sucked because I was super smart. I always got straight A's. In high school, I combined my junior and senior year and took all of my core classes online. Took it upon myself. I was like, I'm going to do all these online so I can graduate early. And they have academies. And so I wanted the nursing academy. I had always wanted to become a pediatrician. I always loved kids. Now I only kind of like my own kids, but
Same.
Yeah, most parents get it. And I wanted to go into the medical field. And so I combined a 2-year nursing program into one. And I would have graduated and finished all of it, except for my last year. The month I turned 18, I had a boyfriend at the time, and we dipped to Oregon. And my online classes were Idaho based, and they wouldn't let me take them in Oregon. And so I just dropped out. And we thought moving to Oregon would kind of help like get off the drugs. And that was not conducive to our plan there. We were super strung out on oxys, and we go to Oregon and you find what you're looking for, right? Like, you can take yourself out of the environment, but you can just find that same environment somewhere else. And so that was a cycle that I repeated for years, was thinking I could get sober, removing myself from a certain area or something, and thinking that was like the magic trick to just stopping. The hard part with opiates is that it is physically painful to just stop. So nobody wants to just quit doing opiates because you're in physical agony, the cold sweats and the puking, and you have to be extremely mentally strong to overcome that on your own.
And at this point, you've been on opiates since you were 16?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So about 2.5 years then?
Yeah, hit and miss. And I come from a family of heroin addicts. And so I always justified, my brother would always give me shit. And he's like calling me a junkie and, you know, telling me like the oxy is the same thing as doing heroin. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm not doing actual heroin. Right. So it's okay.
This was your brother that was like the
My oldest
rock
brother.
band, or the
No,
one that
my
was locked
oldest
up?
brother. Yeah.
Okay.
Would tell me, he's like, you're practically doing heroin, you know, and we come from a family full of heroin addicts. What the fuck are you doing? And I didn't see it that way. I justified it, right? I was like, no, it's okay. I can keep doing, they're just pills, right? And there was an opiate epidemic, where like everybody was strung out on oxy, and it was a real thing.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, they.
Well, a lot of doctors were prescribing it too.
Oh
for,
my
like,
gosh.
So then they had to start prescribing other things like ibuprofen 800s or something like that.
So they were giving them out like candy. I knew multiple people who got crazy scripts.
Or was it hydros too?
Hydros were a thing too.
Hydros and oxys, yeah.
And they would just give them out like nothing. And so most of the people that were my connects just had these like ridiculous scripts. And a lot of older people, like your connects would be like older people, like in their 50s, 60s, who were selling all these oxys to like high school kids.
Yep.
You know? And it was insane. Like you're hanging out with some 50-year-old lady because she's got a script of oxys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the fuck are you doing? You're like 17. And so that was my first taste of like hard addiction, was the oxys. And I battled on and off with those. Oh my gosh, for years and years and years. It was like a constant battle. I tried to get off of them a couple of times with like Suboxone, or I'd cold turkey. And it just got worse and worse every time I got back on them. My addiction just got worse and worse on those. That led up into my 20s. And I had my daughter when I was 21. And her dad and I had known each other since we were 18. His sister was a friend of my brother's. So I met him through hanging out with all those older kids. And I had a high school boyfriend that I don't want to pass over him, because he and I were super close and we were engaged, and I was in love with this boy. And,
you were engaged in high school?
Yeah, when we ran to Oregon and dropped out. So we would have been in high school, and we got engaged, and that was the first, besides drugs, the first love of my life. And man, we were so bad for each other because we were just strung out. And he came from Washington, and he probably would have had a full ride scholarship for baseball and football to college. And he was amazing, and he was everything that I wasn't. And I destroyed him. Like, I took him around my partying, and everybody has choice, right? So he had the choice to do what he did, but the influences I brought him around didn't help. So I took him, we were like 15, 16 years old. I take him to my brother's around all of his friends, and he's introduced how to sell drugs. It's like, this is what you have to do because this is what our family does. So here you go. So he gets a taste of that, and he's hooked. And so we spend 4 or 5 years together, just strung out, trying to figure out what we're doing. 2 teenagers. We had come back from Oregon. We're living back in Nampa, and we split up, and our fights would always turn like violent, right? Because we're strung out and we're kids and we don't know how to regulate our emotions and we don't know what we're doing. We think we're adults. And so we split up and we got in a huge fight and we got into a physical altercation. And I call my brother, who sends one of his friends over, and I'm given a choice of like how this is going to be handled. And he goes, either I'm going to leave or I'm going to go handle that right now because you're saying he put his hands on you. And something in me, I didn't want him to get hurt. And so I tell him to leave. And I kick him out of our house. We're in like these apartment complexes and I kick him out. His dad was a real piece of work and his dad shows up, takes everything in my house, and I just sat there and let it happen. And so I'm broken. I'm high. I'm still strung out. At this point, I'm dabbling in meth. So not only am I taking the oxys all the time, but I'm smoking methamphetamines and just a mess. And so in the same apartment complex is my daughter's aunt lives in the other building from me, and I haven't had my daughter yet. And so her and I were really good friends, I guess you could say. We did a lot of drugs together. She gets me a job, so we start working together, and her brother is going through a breakup at the same time. And so we start hooking up. And then I think it was like not even 3 months later, I wind up pregnant with my daughter. And I remember having a conversation with him. He was in drug court and he was sober and clean. And I'm just strung out on a whole nother level with his sister like every night, just high as fuck. And I'm like, what are you even doing? Like hanging around here, dude? Like you're sober. And I remember telling him, like, you need to get away from me. Like, I'm going to ruin your life. It's pretty much what I told him. Like, this isn't benefiting you. I can't get my addiction under control. And I know that. And it's going to bleed onto you because you're also an addict. You can't just hang around it and stay clean. But he did. And I wind up pregnant. And we try to live like the normal, like white picket fence life. He asked me if I felt like we should get married because we're having a kid. And I remember telling him that I don't think just because we're having a child together means that we're meant to be together. And I loved my daughter's dad in the capacity I had at that time in life. But I was strung out through our whole relationship on oxys. My entire pregnancy I used. And looking back, that's something that's really hard to admit, that I knowingly used drugs through my entire pregnancy, just praying that it didn't harm my baby. So he started hustling oxy so that it could help pay for our lifestyle. And eventually, right after our daughter was born, he relapsed. And he was really quick to pull himself out of it. Whereas, like, I couldn't. I tried. I got kind of sober. And I can't imagine what it felt like for him to sit there and watch the mother of your child, pregnant with your baby, just like keep smoking oxy. Like right in front of you all the time, do anything and everything.
Oh, so you weren't just popping pills?
No, like I would smoke them on foil. And I was like so addicted to it. There was something about that sensation. There was something about the whole process of it that I was addicted to. Not like just the drug, but the whole process of like smoking it on the foil, the smoke, the taste of it. The whole thing just had me so hooked. And I would steal pills from him. He would like have them hidden because he needed the money for them. And he wasn't using like this whole time. He wasn't using. And I would go hide them, or I'd go find them wherever he hid them. I'd clean out our bank account. Like just a mess. And we went through the pregnancy. It was a healthy pregnancy. Had my daughter. Little girl was born on 9/11, so I call her my terrorist child. It was a rough pregnancy. I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't healthy. A lot of trips to labor and delivery triage. And I had an amazing OB.
Did he know about your drug use during the pregnancy?
No. And I wonder sometimes if like maybe the OB did and just everything was going okay, and so nothing was ever said. At this time through my pregnancy, I couldn't work in the service industry anymore, and so my mom worked for one of the hospitals and got me a job there so I could have a desk job, and I still kept using and like working in a hospital, using in the bathroom of the hospital while I'm pregnant, around all these people who know my mom. And
smoking in the hospital?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, just wait. We'll touch on even worse in the hospital. And so I'm like going through all these motions of like, from the outside, everybody thinks that like we're this happy couple and we have a nice house and we have nice cars and we have normal jobs and we're living like this completely normal, like suburban life. And I am like strung out and pregnant. And like most people didn't know unless you were like really close to us. No one had any clue.
Because if you're always high, then they don't know what the
that's your
regular
baseline.
Nicole looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's your baseline. And I've always been small, and so being skinny, like nobody really like picked up on it. And so I have my daughter, and after I have her, I just, postpartum probably hit me. I didn't know what that was. I was young. I had no knowledge on what postpartum was. And at this point, my relationship is extremely toxic and we are just at each other's throats all the time. And he relapses and we go through some really ugly stuff. And for the next couple of years, I think my daughter was around 6 or 9 months old. I'm like early 20s and just being dragged through custody court. I'm broke. I don't have anybody to pay for an attorney for me. So I'm trying to represent myself, trying to pull my head out of my ass. I get on Suboxone and we kind of like go through this like back and forth of, are we getting back together? Are we not type of thing. While my daughter's a toddler, and it messed with me mentally really bad. And I just I had this idea, and, you know, he had said, like, if you can get sober, we can have our family, right? And so I get sober. I'm working 3 jobs. At this time, I also have a niece whose mom was dealing with addiction and gets locked up. She's about 10 or 11 at the time. And I take her on all the time. And I have her all the time with her grandma. And I had always been really close to her. When I was in middle school, she was born. And my brother was really young. Him and her mom were in their teens. It was a teen pregnancy. And they made a lot of mistakes. They were young. And I got picked up all the time from school to help raise my niece, to help take care of her. And I got really, really close to this little girl. And then they moved away. And I kind of went through like my high school years. And then she came back into my life. And so while I'm trying to get my shit together for a toddler, I have this like preteen niece that I'm helping kind of raise. She didn't know her dad. That's a whole nother story, but I introduced her to her dad for the first time when I want to say she was about 14 or 15, maybe a little younger. And so I'm also setting an example for this girl. And so through that phase, I kind of latch on to alcohol. And like alcohol had never really been a problem for me. And I didn't think it was a problem except for the fact that I was waking up with a bottle of vodka every day and going to bed with a bottle of vodka every day and throughout my day with a bottle of vodka. And I worked in the service industry, so that was normal. Everybody drinks. It's completely normalized. I find it extremely interesting how society is so okay with alcohol.
It's wild.
Yeah. It blows my mind. I will preface that with the fact that I've been a bartender for 7-8 years. And it is insane how normalized society makes alcohol. And it's literally a poison that you put in your body. Also, if you have any kind of faith beliefs, the Bible touches on the fact that it's called spirits, right? And you're allowing these like spirits into your body. And it just takes you over. I have never met a good alcoholic ever. There are people who say that they can control it. And, you know, I'm not here to judge. Everybody has their own path. But I don't promote it. It is a means to a necessity right now because it's my job. And so to each their own, I know that I can't control it. And so at this point in life, I just am a party animal. I'm in my early 20s. I'm at the bar all the time. Just running amok with a toddler and a preteen, watching me just be trashed.
And you're single at this point. You and your husband are separated still.
Yeah, my daughter's dad and I were separated, and I think with like the custody court and the separation and being newly sober and not knowing how to live a normal life, alcohol and the bars seemed normal. And so I went through, I guess you could call them relationships, crappy relationship after crappy relationship or hookup or whatever. It was really sad looking back at how bad I just wanted to be loved. And I felt like if I could find the perfect man and I could find the perfect relationship, like everything would be fine. And I think in some way, shape, or form, I was probably trying to like replace my daughter's dad because I had let that go. I had crashed and burned that. And for many reasons, you know, there's always two sides to every story. And we both did a lot of wrong, right? So then I'm like going into all these other relationships as a single mom, newly sober, but now turned alcoholic. But that's not frowned upon, right? You don't meet a guy in your early 20s who's going to be like, hey, I think you're drinking too much. Like, no, they're like, oh, cool, this girl likes to party.
And that's the thing to do when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
It's like the social norm.
That's super social norm.
Yeah.
Well, along with alcohol comes cocaine. Like, that's also a social norm for a lot of people who drink. And so I'm out partying at the bars all the time, coked out. So not only am I drunk now, I'm coked out. Well, me being the addict that I am, I don't want to snort coke. So I start what they call freebasing it and start smoking it off foils, just like I would my pills. And so that goes on for quite a few months. I want to say that was probably like a year of the alcohol and the cocaine. And
that's got to get pretty expensive with cocaine, right?
Well, not when you date the drug dealer.
Oh,
yeah, that's usually,
yeah.
So,
right.
Again, you know, you find how to get what you want. And when you're cute and you're in your early 20s and like you don't really get told no very often.
Right.
You can usually find a way to get what you want. And I was really good at using people for what I wanted them for. I was a master manipulator. Like, I could get whatever I wanted out of somebody, and not feel guilty walking away from them. And that's because I was just so broken that I was like, whatever, it doesn't bother me that I'm hurting you. I'll drain you. Like, and it doesn't. I'll walk away with a smile on my face. So I went through that and was showing these two little girls, you know, I don't know how many men I brought around them, environments I shouldn't have had them in, and driving while drunk. That's a really crappy one. Got in a few accidents that, again, never got in trouble for.
You didn't get caught on those?
No. I got a DUI one time, and I was barely drunk. I had 2 drinks. The cop watched me leave the bar, and my daughter wasn't with me. I was just with some friends. And I leave the bar, and he watches me get in my car and pulls me over downtown. And so I blew, like, on the legal limit, like a .081 or whatever the legal limit is. And I was like, well, out of all the times you were going to catch me for a DUI, that was a real shitty one. Like, you could have got me way worse most other days of the week. And so I got the DUI. It didn't even faze me. I would go to, like, my classes drunk, you know, like, I didn't care.
Would you use the Coke to sober up?
No, I just wanted to be more. Like, that was the thing with anything I use. I always want it to just be more.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like, I'll start using something. I'm like, oh, yeah, that feels great. And then it's like, it doesn't really do it for me anymore. Yeah. So, like, what can I'll keep using more of that substance until it's just really not doing it for me. And then I find something else. I just like to be high. Yeah. I just loved being high. And, like, that was when I felt the most normal, was when I was fucked up.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to be sober. I didn't know how to live a normal life. I just thrived in chaos.
I was going to ask you, when you said you were using while you were pregnant, how did your baby come out? Was she healthy?
Yeah. That is one of the stories of a miracle I will attest to in my life. Is we went through a rough labor, and she was small but healthy. We went through 36 hours of labor. Ended up having her vaginally. I was like praying. I was screaming for a C-section. Man, that was a rough one. And then they tested her, and both of us came back negative. So I don't know if part of that had anything to do with the fact that they give you, like, fentanyl while in your epidural, right? So I don't know if, like,
false negative,
right? But we never dealt with any CPS or anything, and I got induced the morning we left it. We had to be at the hospital at 7 a.m. and I smoked Oxy right before we left to go put me into the hospital to have her. So tell me how it's realistic that me and my child wouldn't test positive for opiates when I had been using for the entire 9 months.
Were you scared that they were going to find out and take your child?
That wasn't like a reality, right? Because you're high. And so I guess, yeah, maybe I, like, the thought crossed my mind, like, hey, they could take your kid from you. But all you care about is getting high. That's more important, right? Like, I'm dependent on this drug. I will do anything and everything I can to get that drug and get high.
Yeah.
Including sacrificing a child.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed. I definitely think that it was a miracle, and I think that God had his hand on us, and that's the only way we made it out of there.
Yeah. Wow.
My parents were As I'm screaming the F word in the delivery room, my mom is standing over me, praying in tongues. The nurses were in for a ride with that one. It was definitely probably a trip. And she came out perfectly healthy. She didn't have withdrawals. So tell me how that happens.
Yeah.
How does a baby go getting exposed to opiates? And I'm not talking just like a small amount of opiates. I averaged what we would call like a pack a day. So about 10, 30 milligram oxys a day was like on the low end for me.
Wow.
And that's on a daily basis. And so that for 9 months, and that child came out not addicted.
Oh my gosh, that's a huge miracle.
With no side effects. Whereas I actually knew girls while I was pregnant, had a couple of friends who were also pregnant and using at the same time. All of their children came out addicted.
Wow.
And went through withdrawals. And my daughter is a miracle. She's perfectly healthy, no withdrawals, didn't test positive, didn't go to NICU, didn't have any complications. And
yeah, that's unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah. God's had a hand on my life for sure. And I feel like that should have been enough for me to kind of like wake up and be like, okay, hey, like you got lucky this time. It doesn't keep happening.
Right.
You know? And then I just dragged that little girl through the mud. Like between her dad and I fighting and custody court and me turning into an alcoholic and the boyfriends. And while I'm dragging her through the mud, I'm dragging my niece through the mud, who already has a mom who's doing the same shit. And I think that I'm better because I'm not putting a needle in my arm. And so, like, I'm not as bad as you because I'm not putting a needle in my arm. Like, I just smoke it. So it's okay. So both of the girls go through an extensive amount of time with me with alcohol and boyfriends and me just running amok. And thank God for my parents who allowed me to live with them the majority of that time, to give my daughter some kind of stability. Otherwise, like, who knows, you know? And I always had other houses I'd stay at, or like boyfriends' houses, or every once in a while I'd get a place of my own for like a couple months. I'd be able to keep it, and then I'd get upside down because I wouldn't pay my rent because I'd be fucking off, spending all my money, and the countless cars that I crashed because I was drunk or not paying attention to what I was doing, or maybe God was trying to give me wake-up calls. I don't know. I totaled my first car when I was 15 and have had countless car accidents since then that I definitely shouldn't have walked out of.
Because you were intoxicated?
Oh, yeah. Or high, you know. There was twice that I wrecked with my daughter in the vehicle, very intoxicated. One of the times when I had first started using again, so she was, I think I relapsed on oxys when she was about 4. From that time, I had just been drinking a lot. So like I say, I had stints of sobriety, but I always had some kind of substance I was using, right? So like the alcohol or the cocaine, while I was sober, but I wasn't using oxy, so it was okay, right? Because I wasn't strung out on oxy, so we're doing good in life. Like we're not high.
You're doing social drugs, alcohol and cocaine.
Yeah, they're party drugs, so it's okay, you know. And I'm going to the bar, like that's all right. Everybody goes to the bar. Everybody parties, and all the people I hung out with, they did, right? That's what I had a little group of people that I did hang out with, and ironically, at that time I was dating one of my brother's friends, and was hanging out with this group of people who are much older than me. Again, you know, they're at this point, I'm in my early 20s, mid 20s. And they're all in their like 30s, and I'm running around with them. And if that shouldn't have been a red flag to be like, this is what they're doing in their 30s. Like, do you really want to do this?
Yeah.
That's the path you're headed down. Most of them barely see their kids and they just party all the time, and none of them have really good jobs, and
Yeah.
you know, they don't have anything going for them. So none of that was ever a red flag for me. Or even watching the consequences that my brothers went through from living those lifestyles. I never in my head was like, hey, if you do this, you could go to prison. Like, you know, in the back of your head, right? But you're like, whatever, what's prison?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, whatever, what's going to jail? Who cares? Who cares if you got a record? Like, everyone's a felon. Well, everyone I was around was a felon.
Yeah.
And that was just normal. And so we make it out of the alcohol and cocaine phase right back into the oxy. And so I happened to cross paths one night with another one of my brother's friends that I had known since high school. And I'm at a bar one night, and he happens to cross paths with me. And that was the beginning of a extremely scary phase of my life. My daughter was still very young. She was, I want to say, about 5 at this point. And he got me hooked on heroin. And so we were trying to get pills, me and an old friend of mine, and her and I ran around for years together. And we wanted pills, and he was like, oh, well, I don't have pills, but I have this. And we were like, no, that's okay. We don't want to like do real heroin, right? We were like, no. And then I remember her and I going in the room talking, and we were like, fuck, we really want to get high. Like, should we just try it? And we're like, sure, you know. And so we come back out of the room, and I'll never forget the first time we smoked heroin. And I remember him looking at me and telling me that you shouldn't do this. Like, I'm going to give it to you, but you shouldn't do this. It's going to ruin your life. Well, along with the heroin, he did too. An extremely abusive relationship, physically abusive, in front of my daughter. I got strangled. I had my daughter in my arms one time and showed up at his house, and he thought I had drugs and I wouldn't give them to him. So he chased me with a knife with my daughter in my arms. Hit me all the time. It was just like I could say something and he didn't like it. So all of a sudden I was getting smacked around. I had him strangle me in a bedroom with my daughter on the bed, and his mom came in because he lived at his mom's house. If that wasn't red flag enough that a 40-year-old was living with his mom and strung out on drugs, I thought he was attractive. I'm like, yeah, I want to date you. Like, that's my judgment was horrendous. And he shoved his mom and continued to just strangle me face down on the bed with my daughter sitting there. And I went through all these different instances with him just being extremely violent. And I kept going back. And I kept going back. And he had nothing to offer me. You know, he ran around and cheated on me. And he had all this. He had like 3 or 4 kids that he was not a part of their lives. Like, they lived with their mom. One of the baby mamas was in prison, the youngest one. And he has these like grown kids who are like in their teens. And he lives with his mom. And I'm thinking like, I'm going to have a life with this person. And we are just strung out on heroin. And so he really enjoyed meth as well. And so every once in a while, that's when I'd slowly start tweaking again. Because we were always running and gunning, and the meth would bring you back up. right? Wake you back up so you could like keep going and running around. Because we never stopped. Like life didn't have time to stop unless you were nodded out, which, you know, also did that behind the wheel quite a few times because I was so high.
Oh my gosh.
Would just nod out, come to, with kids in the car. And one time my niece was sitting next to me and we're on actually Caldwell Boulevard, and I was so high. I'm in the middle of like a conversation with her just like this, and the girl's like 13, 14 years old, and I nod out, and she has to reach over and grab the steering wheel and is like screaming. I come to her like just screaming for me to wake up with my little one in the back seat. And none of it was ever enough for me to be like, dude, what are you doing? You know, like anybody else looking from the outside in would be like, oh my gosh, stop doing drugs, right? Like, duh, you know, like you're setting these horrible examples. You're putting your children in danger. You're putting yourself in danger. You're around people who are violent and give zero fucks about you. Like nobody cares. And instead of it being like a wake up for me, I don't know what it was about that relationship pushed me even deeper into my addiction. And I had a couple years where I was so gone, and I started like running around the streets really hard. I thought that I was some hot shit. I got some connects that were pretty heavy, and I started selling on a level that I had no right to be fucking with. And again, having the brothers I had got me connections that I had no right to have. Crossed paths with some people who knew my older brothers from back in the day and threw weight at me like it was nothing. And
what?
Of heroin.
Dang.
Also in the state of Idaho, like, if I remember correctly, I have to double check this, but I think 3 grams is considered a mandatory minimum of like 3 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Well, 3 grams was like, I'll smoke that in an afternoon, right? So I almost always had like a ball on me. A ball, 3 grams was a ball. Like, that's my personal use for like the afternoon. So I get pretty deep into some shit that I should have no right fucking with some people that I should not owe money to. And because the people that they deal with above them are not people that I ever want to meet. And thank the Lord I never crossed paths with those ones, because I don't think I'd still be here.
Yeah, I've heard there's like cartel connections here
Easily.
in Nampa.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never even knew. But I had another guest on that was telling me that he was dealing with a cartel here in Nampa.
Yeah.
And he was like living in a storage unit and stuff while he was,
It's super common.
Yeah.
Most of everything you're getting around here that's drugs, probably like your connect either gets it from the cartel or their connect does.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
Right.
Like they're just there.
Yeah.
And they're like your normal everyday people.
Right.
You would never have a clue that person just slings hella weight of like meth and heroin.
Yeah.
At this point, fentanyl wasn't around, thank God. Yet, really, not yet. And so I just get super dark and deep, and I start doing a lot of meth. And meth was never, like, I wouldn't sit here and be like, man, it sounds really good to just, like, go smoke some meth. Like, ever. Heroin, opiates were always my, like, yeah, that's my thing. But I would do the meth because it kind of goes hand in hand, and you need to stay awake, you know, to, like, handle business. And so I was just so blitzed out of my mind. I remember one time having a group of people I was hanging out with, I don't want to really call them friends, some people I was associating with at the time, and everybody left. They had like some stuff to go do. And I was supposed to go pick up my niece or something, and I like railed a line, and my daughter's sitting in the room with me. And the best way I could ever describe it is all of a sudden I felt like Gumby. Like, you know, the little Gumby guy. And I'm just gone. I don't even know what happened to time. And 2 or 3 hours later, everybody comes back and they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you didn't go get your niece? Like, and my daughter's in the room with me. And I was just like, what are you talking about? You guys just left. And I was so freaking high out of my mind that I would just have these like gaps of time. No clue where they would go or where I would go. Like, it's not like I did anything productive, you know, I just was high as shit all the time. And so then just because I thought I don't know, I guess I thought it was cool. And I wanted to be a criminal on top of running around like I think I'm a drug lord of Nampa, Idaho, which I was not. I was on the bottom of the food chain. I wasn't that cool. I decided it's a good idea to start jacking people and like robbing houses. So I start running around everywhere with a bandana on. The only time you catch me outside is at nighttime. Constantly masked up and gloved up. And I think it's cool to start robbing houses and people. And that bit me in the ass when I jacked some shit. It got traded or sold in some way, shape, or form. Ended up to, again, a person who is friends with my brothers. He proceeds to call my brothers and tell them that I stole shit from one of his buddy's trucks that belongs to his company. And my brother calls me pissed. And at this point, my brothers are way out of the game, have been for years, have normal lives, like settled down and have their shit together. And so as I'm really like popping off into my addiction and my criminal like bullshit, my brothers are sitting over here like, what are you doing? You're dumb as fuck. Get your shit together. And I'm like, well, I'm pissed because you raised me to be this. This is what you taught me. This is what you put into me and instilled in me from a child. And now I'm doing it. I'm doing it big, right? I'm cool. I'm doing all the shit that you did, that you taught me to do. And you're not even around. And you want nothing to do with me. And you have like disowned me because you're out of the game. Well, that's not really fair. Like, this is what you created. You created this monster, and now you're not here for me. And I think in some way, shape, or form, I was also acting out because I was pissed at them, right? Like, you created this monster. I'm going to take it full send. I'll show you how savage I can be. Like, you wanted this out of me. You wanted me to be this kind of person. Well, I'll prove a point now. And my brothers were just disgusted with my ass. Like, getting phone calls from people because they still know lots of people. Like, dude, your sister's off the chain. Like, off the chain. And I didn't care, you know? My daughter's around it. I'm like hustling in Nampa, running the streets, jacking people, robbing houses, running around with guns, which I had no right to have in my possession because I didn't even know how to use one, right? And I just think it's cool as shit. And I'm out here just, you know, living hard. And I'm lucky that nothing ever happened to me, right? The situations I put myself in, the people I was around, being so far out of my mind. And I'm a tiny girl. And I'm around these people who could seriously hurt me, who have no regard for me as a person. And somehow I always made it out unscathed. Like, never got hurt, never got raped, never got, you know, I've heard horror stories. I've seen guys take advantage of girls and like shoot them up, and people OD and just get left. My daughter being around all of it, and like God always having a hand on us and making sure that we came out of it unhurt. But around this time was when I started to flare up on the cops' radar, because I was doing enough to at least catch their attention.
Was that with the robberies and stuff?
No. Thank God. Actually, thank you, Lord, so much, man. Never got in trouble for any of those.
Were you always doing that solo?
No, most of the time. But I had like one or two dudes that would run around. Nobody was like dumb enough. Nobody was dumb enough to go do this shit with me. Very few people would be like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And I'm over here like, fuck, dude, let's go. Like, let's go rob some shit. Like, I would hit houses. I'd hit cars. We'd hit construction sites, right? Because that's always, dude.
What were you doing with it? Like just pawn shops or what?
It. Yeah, I had connects that would trade me, right? So I'd get shit that's worth stuff and trade them. Credit card fraud. What the fuck, dude? Like, it's so traceable. And I would do it on camera. Like, girl, what are you doing?
So you would steal people's credit cards and then go buy stuff?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck? I would buy gift cards. Or like the Visa cards, you know? So I would use their bank cards and their credit cards and run them as much as I could and turn around and buy the Visa card. Oh my Lord, man.
And you never got caught?
Never got caught.
That's crazy.
Never got caught. My parents lived out in Eagle, and so one time I got this like great idea that it would be a good idea to go break in houses out in Eagle, because it's like nicer neighborhoods. So I was like, had these two dudes who would go do dumb shit with me. And I was like, hey guys, think about this. Like, everybody leaves in the morning to like go to work, right? So if we just go early in the morning and we go break into these houses, like, where the fuck did those ideas come from?
In your early 20s right now?
No, late 20s.
Oh, okay.
So at this point, I'm like 27 about.
Did you ever steal from family?
No.
Oh, so you still had some kind of an ethic then?
I very, very strongly actually had an incident come up one time where this kid I had known since grade school, and I let him come stay at my parents' house with me because he needed somewhere to go. And again, bringing home strays all the time, right? And I wasn't even really living at my parents' house, was the funny thing. I thought it was a good idea to take him there. And my brother was living there at the time with my nephews. And my brother had all kinds of like stereo equipment because he was in another band at this time. And my nephews had, like toys and stuff. And my mom has always had horses. So there's like hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of like horse stuff out in the garage. And I let this kid stay at my parents' house, and I'm not even home, and he's at my parents' house. And somehow he got left there by himself, or just my dad was home, and a bunch of shit got stolen out of the garage. And so my brother calls me up because this kid tells my family that I did it. And I wasn't even home. I was off at a boyfriend's in Nampa, and they lived in Eagle, and my brother wouldn't put it past me, right? He's like, oh yeah, my little sister just robbed the family, and like some of my nephew's stuff was gone. I can't remember now exactly what it was. And my family thought I did it. I had never taken anything from my family. There was definitely times where I would like ask my parents for money throughout the years, and I would go spend it on drugs, but I would never steal from my parents. And there was even many times I would straight look at my parents and be like, I'm coming down. I need a fix. I need some cash. And I would just tell them.
Yeah.
And so he eventually, it came around. He got caught. He had pawned the shit at a pawn shop. And I think that was at least the first time my brother kind of like looked at me and was like, oh, like I said, dude, I would never steal from our family. I might be a degenerate in a lot of fucking areas in life and I'm a piece of shit and I'll steal from anybody else. But like, I won't steal from my family. I don't care how hard up I am. I wouldn't do it. And so I was in this just criminal mentality, right? I think that I am just hard as shit, running around Nampa, Idaho, just slanging drugs and stealing shit. And it is looking back, I'm like, girl, that is ridiculous. Like, first off, you live in Nampa, Idaho. You're not hard. Like,
yeah,
figure it out. I'm so caught up in it and I'm so high. I've never been so strung out in my life because drugs are just getting dropped in my lap like it's nothing. Multiple bigger connects and I'm just getting it just given to me. And so my addiction just skyrockets. Because yeah, I'll sell some of it. Most of it I'm gonna use because I like to do drugs. So I find myself in a hole with most of my connects. So I start stealing shit. And because they'll take trades, which is great. Works out for me. And I pop up on the cops' radar and I got pulled over a couple of times, which was kind of sketchy. One time I got pulled over with my daughter in the car and he was not a regular cop. He was in a regular cop car. He was not a regular cop. It was just one cop, super weird. He comes up and he's like asking me questions and I have so much heroin in the car and my daughter's in the back seat and she's crying because she's always been taught to like not like the police, right? Because that was my mentality. Like, we don't fuck with cops. And he let me go. Super weird. Just pulled me over. And I like knew like, you're on their radar, girl. Like, they know who you are. They know what you're doing. I also, right before this, when he had pulled me over, I was headed to Norco to get a nebulizer machine because like 6 months prior to that, I had hospitalized myself and shut my lungs down. I had such a lack of oxygen. I was pretty much depriving my brain of oxygen because I couldn't breathe. And my mom like forced me to go to the ER and they put me in the ICU on oxygen, on a high-powered oxygen machine. And I'm in the hospital and I am in there because my lungs are shut down because I've done too much heroin, inhaled so much stuff off the foil. And I start doing heroin in the hospital on oxygen. And I get caught by a nurse.
Smoking heroin?
Smoking heroin in
while
the
you're
hospital.
on oxygen,
oh, yeah.
flammable oxygen.
Yeah, yeah. And so I freak out because up to this point I had never been in trouble for this. And I'll never forget, she tells me that she has to send security up. And I'm surprised I didn't just like try to book it out of the hospital. But, which probably thankfully I didn't because they probably would have sent the cops after me because she finds like I have this whole bag full of like a scale and dirty foils and heroin and like tutors. And I'm in the hospital. And she takes it and I'm like, oh, fuck. And my knees hit the floor and I just start praying and I call my mom and my mom comes down to the hospital. It's the middle of the night. My mom comes down to the hospital. This security guard comes in and all I could pray was like, God, give me another chance. Like, this isn't how I want. Like, what is going on? And it kind of clicked for me like, hey, dude, you're going to go to prison. Like, all the shit in that bag, like, you're screwed. And the security guard tells me that he is like a retired narcotics officer and I'm just bawling. And I'm like, dude, I'm an addict. I'm in the hospital because I can't quit smoking drugs and my lungs are shut down. And I have a little girl and I'm young and I just can't get off the drugs, you know? And he lets me go. Well, the next day I'm in withdrawal so bad. Sorry. I signed myself out of the hospital. Because you can like sign against medical. And I leave and I'm high within the next hour. And so after that was kind of when I went into that really dark slope of just running and gunning. And my lungs are pretty much shut down and collapsed on me. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm surviving. I'm so unhealthy. Maybe like 85 pounds. Just sickly. My face is so fucked off. I have mugshots out there that are worse than a meth not even once poster. You know, you see those on the wall and it's like, whoa, dude, that person's rough. Okay, well, my mugshots are disgusting. And I start getting picked up and it kind of like snowball effects, right? And so first time I get arrested, pick up some charges, and I get out. And then, you know.
What were the charges for?
Drugs. Yeah, like possession.
Like felony charges?
No, the first ones I got weren't.
It's like paraphernalia or something?
And then you get picked up again, and then you have shit on you. And then I bail out. And I got a child endangerment charge. At this point, my daughter's dad had filed papers on me and was trying to take full custody of my daughter and put a restraining order on me with my daughter. So I had no contact with my daughter. He went to court. Allegedly, there was a drug test on my daughter at this point. A hair follicle had been done, and she came up dirty for meth, heroin, and marijuana. And so I get charged with a felony child endangerment charge. And the very last time I get arrested, I am running around and I have the Greater Idaho Drug Task Force, thank you guys for saving my life, come and surround me. I'm in the back seat of a vehicle. I'm in a parking lot in a park. And nobody knew where I was. So it's still sketchy to this day, like how they found me, but you never know. They could track my ass. I also was super paranoid, okay? But I was being followed by like drones. I was digging my walls out because I thought there were wires in my walls. I had cops so far up my ass. I was so sketched out. Like I was playing duck and cover everywhere I went. Blacked out. You never caught me in anything but just, like, I never went anywhere unless it was dark out. Like I'm fucking El Chapo, a Namba or something. Just so dumb. And I'm running around with, like, the sketchiest people, right? And the cops know what you're doing. That's the funniest thing, right? It's like you think you're so smart and you think you're like, I'm slick, dude. They don't know where I'm at. They don't know what I'm doing. Well, they were totally casing the house I was staying at. Like I would find them all the time. They would park up the street and just watch the house because it was super hot because I was selling out of it. And I'd like wait till nighttime and like duck out of the garage. And then just, like, have someone pick me up the street. I'd, like, dip through the neighborhood to, like, you know, and think, oh, they don't know where I'm going. My phones I had, like, 3 different phones. Super sketchy about the phones. Oh, my Lord. And so the very last time I get arrested, Greater Idaho Drug Task Force comes and gets me. Before that, they had come and raided my house the night before Thanksgiving. And I'm in my bathroom getting ready for bed. I'm in my pajamas and they arrest my ass. And I didn't even know. I'm in the bathroom, doors shut, and the persons who own the house that I lived with, they let them inside. And so I didn't even know that the cops were like in the house. And all of a sudden, do on the bathroom door, dude. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I did not want to open that door. I did not. And they arrested me. I had no chonies on, nothing, dude. I was so cold. It is November and I am half naked and they're taking my ass to jail. And all I'm doing is like, dude, can I at least have some shoes? Like, and a sweater. And this cop gave 0 fucks. He was like, no, I do not fucking care. Dragged my ass out to that car. And I was like, God.
What'd they have on you at that point? They were watching you sell drugs or what? Okay.
Yeah. And so they had gotten a warrant for the house to come get me. I also was out absconding I was supposed to show up to court on some previous charges. I was absconding. And so get arrested that time, bail out, running and gunning still. Dude, like, fuck you, dude. You're not going to catch me. Not showing up to court dates. I don't even know how many fucking court dates. My daughter's taken from me at this point. I have a phone call with my mom in the garage one night. I'm out there and I am so lost and so defeated in life. And I don't think I'll ever be anything but a drug addict. I don't think I'll ever be anything in life but this criminal personality that I have created and just a strung out piece of shit. And I call my mom, and my plan was to sign over all rights of my daughter to her dad. I was just going to give her to him. I was like, she's better off without me. Dude, she doesn't need to know me. She doesn't need to know this life. I'm just going to let her go. And so I tell my mom, hey, my plan is to sign over all rights of Loa to her dad, and I'm going to bounce to California. Because I want to go be part of the big boy game. Like, Idaho's not enough. This is my life. This is what I'm going to be. So I'm either going to die or go to prison. So I might as well go to California. Because there's nothing here for me. And my mom just starts like praying on the phone. And I'm just bawling my eyes out. High out of my mind. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it was 1 or 2 days after that phone call, I get arrested. And we're in the parking lot of the park by the rec center. And it's gravel. And I'm in the backseat of this truck. And all of a sudden, there was a car sitting next to us. And I remember being like sketched out. Something I've always learned throughout all these years is every time my gut instinct kicked in, I was always right. It was just a matter of would I listen to it or not. And I was weirded out by him, and all of a sudden, that entire parking lot is full of cops. And they've all got guns pointed at this truck. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I'm sitting in the back seat, and they come out with the megaphone thing or whatever. Nicole Johnson, we know that you're in the back of that vehicle. Hands up, hands up. And it's like tinted, right? And I'm just sitting there like, and they're like, hands up, put your hands up. And I'm like, oh my Lord, here we go. And there's literally drugs sitting right in front of me. Like right in front of me, like I was using. And so we all get out of the vehicle. And I will never forget. I'm like, dude, I don't weigh much. And this big ass cop just shoves me with his knee down on this gravel with like guns pointed at me. And I'm like, I'm not violent. Every time y'all have arrested me, I go peacefully. I don't know why we're trying to I don't run. I let you handcuff me. Like, I know I fucked up. You know, it's okay. Just take me. I don't try to swing at you because you're way bigger than me, dude. I'm not trying to hit cops. So they were aggressive. I will never forget that. It was fucking insane. Like, I am just surrounded. And these aren't normal cops. Like, these are marshals. And all I can think is in my head was like, you fucked up now.
Were you known for having weapons on you, though?
No.
Okay.
Like, maybe a pocket knife in my boot. You know what I mean? Like, they never arrested me with guns on me or anything. So, like, maybe they caught me with some pocket knives.
Yeah.
But no. That was yeah, I'm blessed. I never got gun charges. And I was never violent. I don't have a violent, like, history.
With cops.
With cops. Yeah. With the cops, I wasn't violent. They don't know about the other shit. So, I didn't think they did. And I'm, like, thinking in my head, you're done. Like, they're over your shit. The big boys came and got you. You're done. So, that was December 11th, if I remember correctly. And I sat in county for fucking ever. But God had a plan, because I sat there wondering, why the fuck is my sentencing taking so long? I had 3 different shitty ass public defenders, or as we call them in county, public pretenders. Because I swear I don't know how the hell any of them got a law degree, but they see people like you every day, right? They're sick of your shit. They don't want to deal with you. They get paid shit money. They got to hang out in a jail in a crappy fucking courtroom all the time. I don't blame them. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't really go to bat for your ass either. You're obviously guilty, you know? Like, dude, they're looking at your charges like, okay, you're coming in there twacked back. Like, who knows what story you're telling them at the time, right? Like, dude, I swear I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty.
Yeah, those aren't my pants.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I wasn't high. I swear I don't do drugs. Like, sure.
85 pounds of you.
Yeah, 85 pounds. Face just picked the fuck apart.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. It was so gross. And I sat in there, came down. Oh my gosh, Canning County. I don't recommend it. 1 star from me on that one, on the Yelp review. Yeah. It's disgusting in there. Their food sucks. It's cold, and they don't give a shit about you. But, like, why should they? Yeah. You know? They see crap all the time. So, Canning County sends inmates, because they're so overpopulated, to other jails. And so, more than likely, if you've been in there longer than a couple months, you're getting, like, booted to another jail. So I did. I got booted out to Emmett, Jim County, and they would transport you in for court dates. So I did, oh my gosh, I think it was like 9 months of sitting waiting to get sentenced. And I had trafficking charges, which alone, that one trafficking charge carried a mandatory minimum of like 10 years. If I remember correctly on the law on that one, I want to say it's 10 to 12 mandatory minimum on that one charge. I have a felony injury to child charge on my own kid. And a bunch of misdemeanors. I think I had like 18 misdemeanors of like paraphernalia and all this other crap, right? And other felony possession charges. At this point, dude, they're looking at me like you're going to prison. I'd never
What all did they find when they did the house search on you?
I had, what was it, like 12 grams of heroin. Yeah. I was like, fuck.
Is that what got you the trafficking charge? Because
it was
such a large amount?
Mm-hmm. And I looked at them and I was like, dude, that's personal use. And they didn't think that was funny. I was like, no, seriously, like.
Yeah, but for you, that probably was personal use.
It was, yeah. And he's like, there's no way that's personal use. You're selling, which, I mean, I was. But what they did find actually was my personal use. And they were like, there's no way that's personal. I'm like, actually, you're really love heroin. Yeah. It's like you drinking a 12-pack of Coke, you know?
Yeah.
And so we went through quite the process of court dates. And at this point, again, I haven't had contact with my daughter in months. And so you're sitting in jail and you're like, damn, dude, you know, everything starts to kind of like hit you.
Were you able to stay sober in jail?
Yeah.
And like drugs were easy to find, you know?
Yeah, they came in. They were around. I was sick of my shit. I also was really scared because I'm playing out the years in my head of like, dude, 10 years, your kid's going to be like 15 when you get out. You know, you're going to be in your 30s. And and life goes on without you. I've watched it happen. My brother did that, and life goes on without you. And you get out and the world's way different, and everybody's different, and nobody gives a shit that your life's been on hold. It sucks for you. And so I'm scared. And the only people I really have are my parents. And so sentencing day comes, and we'll go back to the high school boyfriend. He had just gotten out and gotten clean, and he was coming to visit me at the jail. And he had always stayed a big part of like my family. He had always been family throughout the years. Ooh, and my brothers were always like big brothers to him, even when we weren't dating. We were always really close. He was always part of my life. And he shows up to my sentencing with my parents. And God had his hand on me in all of this. I wrote a letter to the judge and to the courts, and I asked the judge if I could stand up and read it in court. I sat there many nights writing this letter. I was fully prepared to get sentenced to go to prison. We were trying to make a deal. They didn't really want to give me a deal, which was crazy because it's not like I had a record before this, right? And all these charges were accumulated within like a couple of months. So it's not like it had been happening for years, like I had all this criminal background. Like I just all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're in trouble. You got some major charges. But it was quick. It snowballed. And so we were trying to plead with them like, hey, all of it was because of my addiction. And so they weren't having it. They do this really interesting, I can't remember what it's called. Maybe when you're in county and you have felonies and you go sit down with this person and they go through like your family, your immediate...
Your pre-sentence investigation?
Yes. Well, that fucked me because I have 2 brothers with records. So they pull that up. And everybody's like, lie, lie in it, lie, don't tell them. Well, I mean, I probably lied on some of it, but I was pretty honest with the fact that like, dude, I've been addicted to drugs since I was a kid. Like my problem is drugs. So yes, I've done criminal bullshit, but like my issue is that I'm an addict. At the bottom line of it, I just have an addiction. And so stand up in court to read this letter. My mom and my ex are the only 2 people sitting there. And my daughter's dad had shown up for my sentencing. And I read this letter, and it was from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't be more genuine. I just laid it all out to the judge. And was like, if nothing else, I hope that my daughter's dad can forgive me for being such a shitty mom. And I hope that my family doesn't just always see me as this person. And I told the judge, I was like, I know that I have more potential, and I know that I'm more than my addiction. And I want to be a mom. I don't want to like lose being a mom. And for some reason, that judge gave me the grace. Again, I think this was a moment God had his hand on me in life. And they could have slapped me with years. And I went on a rider. And at this point, I'd already been incarcerated for like a year. And so it was in my head, I'm still like, oh, I'm not getting probation. But that was probably the best thing they could have done instead of just releasing me out to the streets. And I remember just feeling this like wave of relief that maybe I'd have the opportunity to be a mom again. And so I go, also 1 star on the Idaho prisons. Don't recommend it for your next Airbnb. It's not the greatest. But I see my my ex is in the courtroom, not my daughter's dad. The other one is with my parents. And I see him and you look across the courtroom and you're like, I love you guys, whatever. And so most of the county jails around here are not state holds. And so they send you to another county that is a state hold until you get shipped out to the prison. And so I get shipped up to like Cassia County or something. I can't remember what it was called up there.
Oh, like Jerome?
No, it was up Cascade. Was I in Cascade?
Oh.
I was somewhere up there for some reason.
Council area? Like
Council.
Adams County?
Adams County. I was in Council. And so, like, the next day they shipped me out. I did not sit in Jim County for, like, more than another day. And they shipped me up there. I had called my mom before we transported and told her, like, hey, I'll let you know when I get up there. And I call her when we get up there. They finally, like, process us, let us have phone calls. And she goes, Nikki, are you sitting down? And when you just, like, know something's not right, like something happened. And you're helpless. You're in jail. There's nothing you can do. They don't give a shit if you've got some kind of family emergency. And my mom tells me that the night before, so it was the night after my sentencing, that evening, my ex, his mom found him OD'd in his bedroom. And he passed away. She found him dead. And we were talking about, like, getting back together and, trying to, like, start life sober. And so our plan was, like, when I got out, we'd figure out what that looked like. We didn't want to try to do the whole, like, you're in prison thing. And he got given some of those fentanyl pills. That was supposed to be Oxy. It was not Oxy. It was fentanyl. So he passed away very quickly. And I just dropped and just started bawling. And I'm in a jail that I don't know anybody around me, and I've always had this, like, complex of keeping up this persona of being, like, hard, and you kind of got to do that when you're locked up anyways. And I'm just bawling. I'm just a mess, just bawling my eyes out. And so I went through my writer with that, like, weight on my shoulders. I asked for a furlough. They didn't grant it. So I didn't go to the funeral. And I go through my incarceration with that weight on my shoulders, no contact with my daughter. And the only people there for me are, like, my parents and a really good friend of mine who is still a really good friend of mine. And we ran around on the streets together a little bit. We did a bunch of our county time together, and then we did almost our entire writer together. And she still today has a beautiful family, is successful, has an amazing business. Extremely proud of her and her recovery and her story as well. And we kind of just, like, grasped onto each other through that because that's all we had was just the two of us. And I get out with all this programming, right? Because they think that this programming, like, fixes your addiction and you're healed. Here you go. You're all better. Like, go live a normal, beautiful life.
Like, thinking for a change and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. TFAC and...
Yeah.
And, you find, like, a rhythm to life in there. I got a job, visits are on Saturdays. There was, like, a quilting class. I worked in laundry. You go to meetings, you go to church, and you get out and you think you're so ready for, like, the real world, right? Like, oh, I'm changed. I'm never going back to that again. Like,
where'd you do your writer at?
South Boise.
Okay.
And
cats.
Yeah.
Cat program.
I did not know. I don't like cats.
Good. I don't like them either.
We also went through where a couple, they were so young too. I think the girls were like 19, 20, and they tried escaping. They tried running away. Yeah. Well, girl, it's fucking winter time.
Yeah.
And then it puts the whole thing on lockdown. Of course, they're going to find your ass and bring you back. And then we're all pissed.
Yeah.
Because we just lost all our free time for the evening until they brought your asses back.
Yeah.
And we're shut down for the night. So that sucked.
They have ankle monitors on everybody now. In South Boise.
Maybe they could have just put a fence up.
Yeah.
You know, like probably would have been a lot cheaper to just build a fence.
Right.
I know that they, it's minimum security, so they like it to look like it's like we called it cupcake camp.
Yeah.
Is what all of us girls called it. It was like county was way harder than it was out there. County was a mess.
Adams County's pretty sweet though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. They have good food out there.
Yeah.
We were out there for the 4th of July.
That was my favorite.
We got to watch like fireworks and they like barbecued cheeseburgers.
Lieutenant Yoakum.
Yeah. Yeah. The lady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was great. She'd bring in movies, like the new DVDs, and let us watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we loved Friday nights when like a new movie was
That was
released.
always our bathroom stop on the bus.
Oh, dude, she was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually she was really cool because when I got that phone call, she came into the pod and was like, hey, she pulls me out and she's like, what's going on? And I tell her, and she actually let me go out to the rec yard and like go take a breather away from all the people.
She's really awesome.
Yeah. Every once in a while you find good people like that in the system, and you got to remember that we're all humans, right? So you're like, oh, fuck the cops. Cops are shit, or the guards are shit. And it's like, well, they're humans too. And at some point you kind of like recognize like they're sick of your shit. Yeah. Like most of them are underpaid, overworked, and dealing with a bunch of degenerates.
Especially in Adams County, because I remember she would be doing like all the pill call stuff and everything, where like other counties like Caney County, and you have a whole medical team and everything. And,
the guards do that.
Yeah.
Same out at Jim County. There was a Sergeant White, and there was a deputy, which for years I have been trying to like remember her name. Those two, huge blessing in that season and part of my journey, who helped me write the letter for the courts, who gave me a chance, because they don't, if you're a county hold, they don't let you like have a job. And I had been in there so long, they were like, dude, give the girl a job. So they let me be an inmate worker to keep me busy. And the talks I had with them, extremely encouraging. They didn't see me for like being an inmate. They didn't just look at me as like, oh, you're just an inmate, which they do, most people. They looked at me as like a person, and were amazing. And every once in a while on that journey I came in contact with people like that. And I think that's what changed my perspective as I've grown in my sobriety and as a contributing member of society these days. Is it's not fuck the cops, and it's not, shit on these guards. They're just doing their job. And if you weren't being a shitty human and you weren't breaking the law, they would have no reason to even have a job, right? Also, don't be disrespectful to them and they'll treat you like a human. Mm-hmm. I find it amazing how you can change your mentality about police and guards and that lifestyle. You're not just stuck in that. Like, you can overcome what do they call it? The criminal loyalty. And so like in the classes and stuff you take, they would always ask, do you feel like they have criminal loyalty? Most of the time you do. But if you can like outgrow that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's been a huge blessing. I actually have quite a few friends these days who are police officers or retired officers, and they love me. That's the crazy thing. Like, they know my whole story and they're like, we just love you so much. Like, I have this couple that they're retired from LA, and I love them to death. And I remember when I first told them my story and they're like, you didn't used to do that. I'm like, I did. I was a degenerate. Like I did. I'm sorry. And they're good people, you know, like they're still just humans and that's just their job. Like that's not all they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, there can be asshole cops out there and there's asshole guards, but there's assholes everywhere. You know, there's shitty humans in everything. And I think you just kind of learn to like respect them. Like I don't bash on the cops for doing their job and arresting me because I was a shitty person, you know? Like I wasn't doing any good to the community. I was a terrorist to the streets, man. Like, thank God they came and got me.
El Chapo of Nampa.
Yeah, El Chapo and Nampa, man. And so it just, I appreciate that today I can look back and have a different mentality on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because in the moment you look at it and you're like, fuck the cops, you know, like,
yeah,
they're pigs, blah, blah, blah. And it's
right.
like, well, actually, dude, like, you're kind of trashy. You should really get your
shit together. You were able
to
take some ownership.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it took me a long time. Because when I got released, I thought I had it all handled. And if there's anything that pointers I can give to any sort of recovery, you have to change the people, the places, and the things, right? So you cannot hang out with people you used to hang out with. You cannot go to the places that you used to go to, and you cannot have the same activities that you used to have. You have to completely change your life. I thought that I could still hang out with people that I used to use with and party with. I thought that I could still be around it. Initially, what got me screwed up is I thought that I could be like a weekend warrior, and I thought that I could sell to and stay clean. I thought that I could just sell to make money and like provide, and I'd only dabble here and there. And so that got me all caught back up, and COVID hit right after I was released. Like 3 or 4 months in, everything went on lockdown. So your POs aren't looking at you. Classes are shut down. Classes are over Zoom. So then you just stop logging into your classes. You don't have check-ins with your PO. And they give you so much noose. And I hung myself with that shit. And I completely relapsed. So thank God on that bender, I didn't use meth, but I was completely strung out on heroin again. And I lived a normal life was the weird part in that season. I maintained a job and I had my daughter, and I was actually dating a guy who was in recovery, and I would go to AA meetings like all the time. He was in an MC that rode for recovery and sobriety. And I was around all these people in recovery, and I was strung out on heroin. And nobody knew. Nobody ever said anything. He didn't even know. And it was so weird because I'd be high. But like I wouldn't get like so high. I wasn't trying to get strung out. It was more of like a maintenance, right? I had used too much to where my body was physically dependent on it. So I wasn't like using to run around the streets again and do all that crap. I was using because I physically couldn't get off of it. And I wanted the normal life. So I worked a job and I had a relationship and I was around recovery. I had a sponsor. Started working the steps while I was using. I'm so sorry, Megan. And
just live that double agent life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you're so paranoid and you feel so guilty. You feel so guilty because these are really good people and they care about you. And, you know, I have my daughter around like normal. And so I was really weird about when I would go like pick up, I was like really quick. Well, through this entire time, I also had a warrant out for my arrest, a felony warrant out for my arrest because
For not checking in?
Yeah, I had absconded my PO. And so I'm living like a completely normal life, strung out on heroin with a warrant out for my arrest. And just like nobody knows. And I knew that like as long as I didn't go to my parents' house, I was fine because my parents' house is where they would look for me. And eventually, it all caught up with me. And the guy I was dating at the time, he had relapsed and I was trying to get sober. And so I was going to the methadone clinic, and that was like a back and forth, right? I wouldn't give it my all. And so I wouldn't like actually let the methadone work, which I'm also not a huge advocate for after going through that process. But it did help me kick the heroin eventually. He relapsed and we were kind of like hanging out. And I also had a rule that I wouldn't go out past a certain time of night because I didn't want to get pulled over. Because I knew if I was out in the evenings at nighttime, you're going to get pulled over. Like karma's going to catch you. Like you're going to get in trouble and they're going to catch you on that warrant. And so he had to go pick someone up in Caldwell. And I was like, sure. We took my car and it was evening time. It was late. It was dark out. And most of the time he was in an MC. So most of the time if we were out at night, we were on the bike. And so I was like, oh, we're good because we won't get caught on the bike. And we never got pulled over on the bike. And so we took my car this time and I left my wallet at home because I was like, I'm not taking my wallet so that if something happens, my ID's not on me. They don't know who I am. Well, the kid in the back, like we got pulled over. The kid in the back told him my name. And so my dumbass is sitting in the car and we're right off the Eagle exit on the freeway. And I'm sitting there playing out, could I run across the freeway and get away from these cops? Like, am I fast enough? And I'm like literally mapping out in my head like a getaway run. And then a K9 shows up. And I was like, no, fuck that. I am not running from a K9 on a freeway.
It could be 2 feet, not 4 feet.
Dude. Yeah. I was like, you will die. Like, you will either get hit by a car, that K9's gonna get you. Like, none of that sounds appealing. And so they take me in, and he's like, you have a warrant out? And I was like, yeah. And so I was on the run for almost a year with a felony warrant out. How I got away for that long? Probably just because, like I said, I was so cautious. Like I lived a normal life, but every day I'd be at work. I'd be worried the cops are going to show up at my job. And this is actually while the place I work at right now, I was working at. They hired me. And every day I was like, man, cops are just going to show up someday. And like my PO is going to come walking in the door here. And so I get arrested. Another, by the grace of God, they don't put bonds on PVs. So if you have a parole violation, like they don't give you a bond when you go to jail. And so they take me in Ada County and my mom's like looking up my stuff. I go to court and they tell me you have a bond. And if I remember correctly, it was like a $25,000 bond. And I was like, what? And I was like, are there any like no holds on anything else? And they're like, no, like if you have a $25,000 bond, you pay your bond, you can get out, you bail out. I was like, oh, bet. Okay. So I called my parents. They let me sit in there for a week. Well, the methadone programs bring, if you have everything set up properly and you're on good standing with them, at this point, I was just kind of using like a little bit here and there. And I was really trying to rely on the methadone. And so I had my mom go down to the clinic and set up for my medications to come down to the jail, and they'll dose you. And what they do is they do a 7-day taper. So ironically, my parents made me sit in there for almost 7 days until they bailed my ass out. And I'm on a 7-day taper of methadone. So I have a very clear mind, and I'm sitting there realizing I think I had 12 years hanging over my head if my PO decided to be like, that's it, you're done. And I'm just thinking, well, we've been here before, Nicole. Not fun. And this time, they're not giving you a slap on the wrist and giving you a rider. Like, you're going to big boy jail. Like, you're done. You're going to prison. And it will not be for a couple of years. There is no way out of this. My stipulations of my release was that if I mess up, I go do my time. That was why I got a rider. And so I go, okay. And I get out. My parents bail me out a Friday morning. They release me at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I wait. I think I remember I waited till like 7 in the morning. And I immediately called my PO. And I was like, hey, I need to come talk to you. And so I go show up at his office praying. This dude's looking at me like I'm crazy. He goes, you just ran from me for a year. Yeah. You go to jail for a week. Somehow they let you out and gave you a bond that you shouldn't have had. And now you're sitting in my office. And he just looks at me. He goes, why shouldn't I lock you up? Give me one good reason. Shout out to that PO, because without his support, I don't think I would have made it as far as I have. He was phenomenal. He always had faith in me. And if he wouldn't have given me that chance that day, I haven't used since. So I sat there with him and I looked at him and I said, I have absolutely no reason to ask you for another chance. I can't give you any reason, and I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. But if you choose to give me one more chance, I will not blow this one. And I stuck to that. I called my job. My owner of the company I work for is absolutely amazing and was like, she's good at what she does. Like, give her another chance. I have been with that company almost 5.5 years now. And he gave me chance after chance. I went through custody court again for my daughter while newly sober. And I came off methadone. I met my husband at my job right now. And we went through, I got off the methadone, which is really hard, by the way. I also, the system is rigged. And so they love to keep you like in it because they make money. I think they're connected to like big pharma. Yeah. The methadone and Suboxone clinics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're like, they get hella money from either the state or insurance companies. And so I did a self-taper. I like chose to come off of it. And every time you go to check in to get your doses, they go, well, how are you feeling? And I'd be like, oh, well, I feel like shit, right? Like I'm pretty much on a opiate come down every single day.
Right.
You know, and you just kind of like power through it. Was the absolute worst thing I've ever kicked in my life next to vaping was methadone. That was miserable. A really shitty time in my life. I remember calling my PO and being like, dude, I got to be able to sleep. So I'm just letting you know that if you test me for marijuana, I'm going to pop positive. And he goes, okay, as long as I see your like levels slowly lower, I'll work with you. And I was like, cool. Because that was the only way I was getting off that crap. And they would ask you, okay, well, how do you feel? And you'd be like, well, I feel like shit. And they go, okay, do you want to up your dose?
Oh, shit.
Like, no, I'm trying to get off of it. But for somebody who's weak-minded and somebody who, like, doesn't, have a goal, or you're not, like, dedicated to the idea to kick it, yeah, dude. Okay, yeah, just up my dose so I feel better.
Yeah.
Instant gratification. That's what addicts love. And they'll let you get up so high that you're fucking high on that shit. It's not like helping you stay clean. These people are just strung out on methadone. Horrible health effects, like rots your teeth, shuts your body down. People get diabetes on that shit and they swell up. Like you eat like crap because you have sugar cravings out the roof. It's horrendous. If you can't tell, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, side effects sound worse than what it helps.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's
if
good,
it helps
but
you
like,
kick it.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of side effects
Oh
that
my
are bad.
gosh. Yeah. I don't recommend it if you can kick without it. But it did help me like get off the heroin, and it was useful for the time being. I thank God that I had enough of a strong will to be like, I don't want to be on this anymore. I had finally gotten to a point in my life where I didn't want to be dependent on anything. I had been dependent on some kind of substance for so long in my life. I just wanted the freedom of like not being dependent on a substance anymore. And the methadone was like the very last thing I had hanging on me. So as I kicked that, my husband and I were dating then, and we became full-blown alcoholics. And so I traded one drug for another again. And I thought I was fine. I thought, I can control alcohol. I've done it before. Alcohol's not my problem. And here me and my husband go into a crazy couple of years of just drinking ourselves into a mess. Toxic as all get out. We would fight. Oh my gosh, everyone around us couldn't stand our asses. Like nobody wanted to hang out with us. We were a good time till we weren't, right? We were the life of the party until all of a sudden he pissed me off or I pissed him off or somebody else pissed me off, because my husband is the unicorn, right? He's at the bar and he's like, everything's rainbows and butterflies and this is great. And he's so happy. And then I'm over there trying to fight a 6-foot dude. Yeah. So there were quite a few times I got escorted and kicked out of the Frontier in Meridian by security because I like to fight and I would get drunk. And then I'd try to fight my husband because he didn't back me up while I was trying to fight this dude. And this dude's looking at my husband like, bro, come get your chick. And my husband's over there, at the time boyfriend, but he's over there like, I don't know, this is not my fucking problem. Like, whatever, dude. Like, I don't want to fucking deal with it. Like, she's a handful. So we would get into it all the time, and then I'm like, oh, you don't fucking have my back. You don't love me. You're not going to protect me if some dude's in my face. And he's like, bitch, you got in his face. Like, chill out. And I would do that everywhere we went, all the time. And we got so toxic. And a couple of years of that, I had no clue how our relationship was going to make it. Like, my daughter witnessed. And again, right? So at this point, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm doing good in life because I'm not on drugs. And, we have a house and he's got a good job and like, I'm still at my job and I have been. So I'm not hopping around. Like, we have some stability. I've got my daughter back 50-50. And our relationship started as I was like progressing through visitations with my daughter. And I kind of like, I hit sobriety. I'm in the process of trying to get my daughter back. I'm going through like supervised visitations, and then she finally gets to start having like sleepovers at my house. And when it was turning into where I was going to have her regularly and nothing was supervised and we were just on like a normal schedule, my husband and I decided to move in together and get a house together. And he also has a son who primarily lives with his mom, and we fly him out a couple times a year. And so he would come visit with us every once in a while. And these kids were just watching us go through the muck and be a mess. We were drunk all the time. Like, I'd wake up with a twisted. And I also condoned it and justified it because I wasn't drinking liquor most of the time, right? Like, I only drink beer. Like, it's not a big deal. As long as I don't drink liquor, I'm fine. So then when we go to the bar, like every once in a while I drink liquor, but I always justified it because I drink like White Claws and Twisted Teas. And so, you know, it's okay because I'm not drinking like real alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, so it's fine. But when you drink a 24 pack before bed, it's not, yeah, you're still drunk. Does the same thing.
Right.
So we went through that fun phase, and it blew up in our face, and we split up for a while, and he left for 6 months. It was not pretty. Our breakup was not pretty. And my daughter is really, really close to my husband. And so it was really hard for her because that was her stepdad and had been for like a couple years, even though we were just dating. She was really close to him. And he's all of a sudden gone, and I'm not healed. So I'm talking trash about him. She's hearing all the shit that he did that was wrong, right? Because I'm going to point fingers. Like, I'm perfect. I didn't do anything wrong. Like, you're the one that fucked up our relationship. You're the fucking alcoholic. Because that man is crazy when he drinks. I love you, honey. He is fucking insane. Just a whole nother level of like, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. I'm Taylor fucking Duke. I do what the fuck I want, right? He is just, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't fucking care? You know, what do you mean you don't I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care about anything. And I'm over here like, I care too much. And I'm gonna make you care, right? Like, I'm gonna force you to give a fuck. And it blew up, and he's gone, and I'm still pissed, and I'm hurting. And I just start drinking even more. And if I don't have my daughter, I'm at the bar. When I had my daughter, I probably was going to the bar before I came home. It was just a mess. And then I started doing coke again because it goes hand in hand. And my husband and I had reached out to each other. Like, here and there, we'd have a little bit of contact. He moved back to Washington, and we had a little bit of contact here and there, very minimal. But I was so broken, and I couldn't get over him. And like, I knew that, and I tried to just numb it with like more alcohol and more men and anything that would just appease me for the time and like not have to think about it. And he reaches out to me, and he was sober. He tells me he had been going to AA, and I had started going to the gym. I had started going to 3D. My really good friend who we'd been through so much together and we were locked up together had a membership there with her husband, and she takes me down to meet Mary and Charlie, and I get a membership. I start going to the gym. I don't know what I'm doing. I never really like gone to the gym before. But I needed an outlet. And so I knew that the drinking was turning into a problem once I started doing the coke, and I acknowledged that. And I was like, dude, I got to find something, because I'm going to start getting, it's all going to unravel again. I know where this goes. I've done this, and that's not what I want. And so he tells me that he's been working out and going to recovery meetings, and he's been sober. And I think at that point he had like maybe 2 or 3 months sober. And he says, if I can come to Idaho and take you to dinner, would you go to dinner with me? And I'm like, why, are you like driving through for work or something? And he's like, no, I will just want to come take you to dinner. So I get drunker than a skunk the night before, and he comes into town, and I am so hungover. I just want to puke. Like, I worked all day, and then we're immediately going to dinner, and I was so sick. And that was the last night I drank. I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And we figured it out. We took like a 6-month like transition. We focused on our faith, and we focused on our well-being, and the gym was our saving grace. Like, that's what we needed, the outlet. An addict's an addict, right? You're going to find something to have an addiction on because you just have that in your DNA. And so I couldn't find a better addiction to have than fitness. And it's turned into a lifestyle for us. Lots of people think I'm kooky these days, but I'd rather be weird about like shit in my food and going to the gym and my health and wellness than, you know, being on drugs and all the crap I've come from. So we've instilled that in like our family core. He came back and proposed to me within a month of being home. And then we now have a little 9-month-old baby, Jack. And that is coming from the man who, when we started dating, told me I will never get married and I'll never have kids. And I was just good with it. I was like, okay, I don't want any more kids anyways. I don't really care if I'm ever married. I'm like, you can just put a ring on my hand and I'll just wear it around, right? Like, I don't care if I'm ever actually married. And now we're married and we have a beautiful family. I can't stress enough to anybody who is going through any kind of recovery or even any struggle in life of what like fitness can do for you. Like what you can overcome in the gym mentally. Like a lot of people look at it as, oh, it's all the physical aspect. I don't know how many times I've saved myself mentally and emotionally by going and getting a workout in. I don't know how many times I've cried in the gym, especially going through postpartum. I have had some emotional workouts. That release is amazing what it can do for you. And I could go on all day about what fitness can do for you because it has changed my life. I can be more level-headed now than I've ever been. I still have moments like my husband sees them. Thank God for the amazing man that I have because postpartum's a bitch. Let me tell you that. I went in with it with like all full of like, I'm capable of this. I'm ready for it. You know, you have kids. I'm sure you've been there with your wife. Yeah. And so that hit me like a fucking whirlwind. That was crazy. And you don't know how to like control your emotions, right? You don't like, I don't know what I'm doing with all of this. When I found out I was pregnant, I was also on hormone therapy. So I was taking testosterone because my levels were so low. My hormones were so jacked up from like all the crap I'd done to my body for so many years. So we were like getting me all leveled out and I had to like cold turkey on the testosterone and then get hit with my first month of pregnancy. And the first trimester is like a lot. And so it's been like a roller coaster. But the gym has been like, you go get that release, right? And sometimes that's by yourself. Sometimes it's with other people. I think what's amazing about 3D and our CrossFit gym at Snake River is your community. There were so many people at 3D. I went there throughout my entire pregnancy and so encouraging, right? Like you waddle your little pregnant butt in there and everybody's like, oh my gosh, good job. You're at the gym. You know, like I couldn't do that if like just so encouraging. And then you have these like big old gym bros over there who are just like, you're making them real nervous because you're trying to squat and you're like about to push a baby out, you know? And so that was an amazing journey to go through. I give so much love to Mary and Charlie, man. They're awesome. They're good people. And the community over there at 3D. I can't wait to see what this next season holds. I'm in the process of getting my NASM for personal training, wellness coaching, and nutritionist. And so this is like the next journey I'm on. I love knowledge these days, right? So like learning and taking in all there is out there. And you almost feel like you're playing catch up after you have a past like this. And then you live this normal life and you finally like find your baseline and you have a good family and a good home and a good environment. But then you're like, oh, I'm so behind because all those years were like normal people were going to college and buying houses and, you know, building a career and you were just fucking up your life.
Yeah.
So you sit here and you get like discouraged sometimes because you feel behind as everybody else is like on another level from you.
Comparison is like definitely terrible.
Yeah.
Because then you don't know what you see what they are going through, but you don't see what they're going through.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Especially as much as I love social media and I really
get a highlight reel.
Yeah, you get a highlight reel of everyone's life, and that's scary. I try really hard actually to be super transparent in my content and not give just highlight reels.
Same.
I love to give highlight reels of the nitty gritty also.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people need to see that. You know, not everything's perfect and rainbows and butterflies. Like, people struggle. Regardless of what your struggle is, like, people struggle. I thank God that my struggle isn't with, like, addiction anymore. But there's always going to be some kind of struggle, right? Whether it's, like, finances or am I doing good enough as a mom? Am I doing good enough as a wife? Being a wife and watching your husband fight battles is a whole nother journey, and like you want to fix everything for him because that's kind of what you are. Like, as a wife, you're the only one that your husband has to like break down to, in a sense, right? Because they have to be this strong figure for everyone else in the world and put up this like wall, and so you see when that wall is broken down, and it's really hard to like not be able to just fix it for them. And then with your kids, I've had an interesting journey recently, and being able to watch my daughter. We went through a couple of years there where I was very concerned about her, and she was getting in trouble, and we were getting calls from the school all the time, and her grades were dropping. And when you change your life path and you change your environment and you set an example, they follow, right? Like, you lead, they follow. And I've learned to not be the parent that like, oh, do this because I told you so. I'm going to show you that this works because you're going to watch it change my life. And then you're going to want that, right? And that goes for people even around you. I have one of the most amazing compliments I can get is when people message me and they're like, you inspired me today to like go to the gym. I really didn't want to, and I went to the gym, right? Or I'll get comments from moms who are uncomfortable because your body isn't perfect anymore after you have a baby and you're trying to like feel comfortable in your own skin again. And they're like you make me inspired. And I'm like, thank you. You know, like, that's all I'm doing this for. Yeah. It's not for my glory. Like, yes, I can get a big head every once in a while, but I said a prayer before I came in here today, actually, and I asked God to like give me the words to not glorify myself. I also in no way, shape, or form glorify that lifestyle. There's stories that are funny, you know, shit happens and you got to look back on it and you're like, all right, you know, you got to find the humor in it here and there.
Yeah.
But if nothing else that I can do is give all of my glory to God bringing me through all of this, to continue to keep bringing me through like normal life struggles, I guess you'll call them.
Yeah.
And my content, my social media, I hope just continues to inspire people and like show the rawness of everything that I've been through. Because it's a battle. It's not easy, and I'm not perfect, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And, you know, it makes me nervous to put my face out there and my family out there after all of the things that I've done, and being not a good human. And I've probably hurt a lot of people, and I've done a lot of really shitty things, and I pray I've ate my karma taxes on most of those. But that's part of why I do it, is like, maybe that's my way of being able to like give back.
Yeah.
And like put good back out there after being so shitty for so long, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of great stories and a lot of great wisdom, and I love
Yeah.
it. I don't even have to like ask any questions because you covered everything. So
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just talking about like social media. Where's a good spot for everybody to follow you
Yeah.
at?
Instagram at Nikki Dukes, and then Facebook Nicole Duke, and I've got TikTok Nikki Duke and Fam. Yes.
Sweet. We'll put like tags for all that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw tags on there.
Yeah.
So,
I really appreciate you coming on here. This has
Yeah.
been amazing.
It's been
Way more than I would have thought. Like I didn't have no idea, but that definitely was blown out. So I love it.
Thanks.
I really
Thanks
appreciate
for
you coming
having me.
on.
I appreciate it.
I'm excited to see where everything goes from now and
Yes.
the next chapter. And
Yeah.
And now you're going into personal training, so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more. And
Yes. Yeah. I'm really excited to get some knowledge on like nutritionists and wellness. I also am looking into some like training with peptides, and I just want to like really expand into that.
That's awesome.
That industry is like booming,
Yeah.
and I love it. Like it makes me so excited to
Yeah.
talk about. I'm like, I'm like
The good drugs.
the good drugs. Yeah, take the good drugs. Yeah, like I put enough crap in my body. Peptides don't scare me.
Yeah.
You know, like it's fine. They'll
Yeah.
be fine. Yeah.
Love that.
Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
absolutely.